本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？全然見えないよ。
I miss you.
What's good, Internet? It is Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
May 5th.
Yeah.
Episode 62 of Waypoint Radio. We are coming to you live from Lobby 1. My voice is not all there, but I kind of like it. I like the gravel.
You got a little more, little...
I got a little body to it.
I don't even have words for that. It's just,
That's
Yeah.
Danielle Riendo, who ran here in the rain today.
I
In the
did.
pouring rain.
It was fun.
Got some weird looks. Also joining us, Patrick Klepek.
I just dumped a whole thing of salsa into this coffee, and now I'm just sipping it.
That's
What?
feel the season, baby. Cinco de Mayo, drink that salsa. All about my salsa, you know
Delicious.
what I mean? Rob Zachney, also probably offended as we are appropriating his culture.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think putting sauce on things is probably not the best way to celebrate your to celebrate this holiday.
As an ignorant white person, it's all I know, Rob.
Oh, God.
You know? California Republic, that's right. Good work.
Now in about 5 minutes, Patrick's going to start complaining about how his coffee's too spicy.
Well,
That
Yeah.
sounds right.
He's going to start coughing. He's going to turn red in the face.
He's going to come up and order that salsa. He's going to say, I want it spicy, but you and I know, Rob, we have to give it to him mild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know.
this is very,
We know how
it's
it
very
is.
judgmental cast, please.
Yeah,
Please.
welcome to the Judgmental Cast.
The Judgment Cast
It is.
today.
It's hey, listen, it has been a week of judgment. It's pilot week here.
Yes.
And we've been putting things out in the world to get judged. We've been saying, hey, we have all these good ideas, but maybe in execution, they're not as good as we think, but we're going to try. We're going to put that stuff
Doing
out there,
our
and we're going to
damnedest.
get responses.
That's right.
And actually, so far, the responses have been really positive. So if you haven't seen this yet this week, we've released 4 videos so far, another 5th one coming today, short form, little, 1 to 4 minute long videos that are in new ideas that we want to go either shoot some more of them or redirect our efforts to do something else. And those are available at youtube.com/waypointvice.
We're seeing what works. We're throwing a little bit of spaghetti on the
Exactly.
wall. To appropriate my culture.
Right.
You throw some spaghetti on the wall, see if some of it sticks, and then you know if it's al dente or not.
Classic Italian American practice of
why can't
throwing
we
Throwing
spaghetti.
spaghetti.
instead, though?
Because you
I
don't
mean,
know
you
if you
will.
only want to eat the sticky spaghetti.
Yeah, it's true.
You got to find out which spaghetti sticks.
So
and
you
then
take
go,
the spaghetti off the wall, and then...
Yeah,
I mean,
that's how you know
No,
it's
you
good.
leave
wanna
it
know.
there, and that is eventually how you decorate your kitchen. I can't believe you didn't know this about Italian culture.
spaghetti kitchen is beautiful.
It's
People travel far and
bueno.
wide to visit the spaghetti mosaics.
Do I need to put some pasta in this coffee with the salsa?
Yes,
yeah.
yes, you
just
do.
Drop that in.
That's how you sustain your life.
Salsa's just marinara with cilantro on it, so that's just science.
Oh, it's delicious science right there.
I love it when I get mozzarella sticks and salsa. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's,
So
that's
good.
like America on a tray.
I bet that'd be all right.
Patrick's into it. See?
I love mozzarella
It might-
sticks, so,
Yeah.
you're halfway there. What we're dipping them in is sort of irrelevant.
I'm sorry, wait, is talking about mozzarella sticks appropriating, like, white dude diner culture? I
Like
think that's
TGI Fridays
TGI
culture.
Fridays culture.
My people.
my
Here,
people.
hey, I'm in the Midwest. That is my people.
Yeah,
got
I'm
it.
not here to drag TGI Fridays culture. I'm here to go to TGI Fridays. It's Friday today.
Friday.
I could go for some
Thank
mozzarella
God.
sticks.
I haven't had mozzarella sticks in a while. I really
They're
like
pretty
mozzarella
good.
sticks.
What are a human idea mozzarella sticks are? Like, you know what's good? Cheese. You know what else is good? Frying shit. Put that cheese in a fryer, put some bread on it, then dunk that in some other shit you like.
It's a pretty human idea.
It's like
a deeply
it's literally
human
like
idea.
someone like kind of wanted a pizza, but they were several steps away from being able to make a pizza, and they were like,
yeah.
wait, when you boil it down, let's get reductive about the
When you
pizza
fry it down.
experience.
Yeah. Someone had a party where they invited a bunch of people over and they're like, oh, we're going to have so much pizza. And they just did not prep for it at all. Like, all right, what do I have? Okay, got some mozzarella. I have some
Austin,
crumbs.
don't
Oh,
scream
man.
into your mic.
Austin
Don't
just
scream
clipped
into your
through
mic.
the wall. Just
To be fair, I have 3 different microphones. I have no
It's true.
idea which one
He's
you're
not sure.
hearing.
Whatever
So-
one it is, don't scream into it.
his peaks are somewhere up in the Himalayas. They have not been seen for weeks.
Speaking of being high up in the sky,
Oh, I
like
knew
in the
that's where we were
Himalayas,
going.
I spent some time in space, a low
Okay.
Earth orbit. recently
Whoa.
because Prey came out yesterday.
Oh shit!
And that has some space stuff in it.
There's some spacey things
That's-
you might say. So we're gonna start off with like no spoilers.
Yeah,
like
we're gonna try to
absolutely
keep the
no spoilers.
super low.
And then like extremely mild spoilers.
Yeah.
Probably.
Who else has played this game at all?
I've played it.
I played 2 hours this morning.
I thought you were going to say you beat it, Patrick, and I was like,
Me too.
what sort of weird Bethesda connect do you have? Because this is the third time.
Or he's
whatever
just that
they're
good.
Not, he speed ran it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the third game that Bethesda sent out with like no heads up review time. Their new like
The New World
fuck
Order.
the press system. Which whatever. But we all put a couple of hours into it. I have 6 hours in it now.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit further in. What are your first impressions so far? And Rob, think about some questions you have about this game. I know you're a
I've already
fan
got questions.
of the immersive sim of the BioShock-esque game of the System Shock-like.
Or the thief-like.
Yeah,
That's the other side.
The Looking Glass.
There we go.
Etc.
The 0451 is a code in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
World.
So yeah, let's open up on just impressions broadly. Patrick, Danielle, what do you think?
So I played the demo and I loved the demo. I played it a few months ago, at an event or whatever, and it was really fun. It really was. It did feel like BioShock in space. I know that's the sort of tagline everybody's using, but it felt like that in a lot of good ways, and it felt like a modern version of that. It actually felt like the combat was streamlined in a lot of ways, that it was very fun to interact with, and it had a very, very clear vision for sort of how the three paths through the world kind of look like. There's a scientist who does a lot of research and has special weapons. There's an engineer who does a lot of hacking and sort of fixes things, fixes turrets to do combat for you. And I think the last one is security, which is like the soldier build, basically. So, yeah.
And these are like trees in that.
They're trees.
Oh, it's
You can
the
pick and
System
choose.
Shock 2 thing, where it's like you're one of
Exactly.
these three flavors of...
No, you're not
Well-
picking one or the other. You have all of the trees open.
Okay.
Yeah, you
just
can
put
pick and
points.
choose. You can pick and choose. But like it's like generally 3 builds, 3 main paths kind of through any given scenario, that sort of thing. So I loved that. And I started playing it the other day, and there's a crucial difference. I won't go into exactly how it is because we're not talking about anything super spoilery right now, but I will say there is one crucial difference that is making things difficult. So the game is harder than I thought it would be.
I think the thing you're
based
talking
on
about
what-
is not a spoiler.
Okay, cool. There was a shotgun right at the beginning in the
In the demo. Yeah.
and that made combat actually really fun. You're not super powered, I don't think, at any point in this game, unless I suppose you go all the way with the soldier build or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was really fun to fight enemies because there were a lot of ways to fight them, and that was exciting and cool.
Right, like doing things like
and
using
now
a shotgun
I just die
to
all the time.
blow up like
Exactly,
oil barrels
to
or like
to blow up a thing that causes an explosion.
right
You
that
feel
sets the oil on the ground on fire
Yes.
and like sets all. Yeah, of course. Like
without that, combat is, at least early on, I'm probably about 2 hours in, maybe 2.5 hours in myself. Combat is really treacherous and not super fun without
Yeah.
something that
these-
explodes.
Is it
These
mandatory?
games are.
yes.
Yeah, the combat is.
There's
yeah,
not really
it's
any
in
stealth.
your face. But there's something very clever this game does. So if you've played a lot of these games before, you're very familiar, especially if you play on the PC, like with the quick save, quick load culture, which is that these are the types of games where like you encounter a room, you quick save, you kind of take your attempt at it, and depending how it goes, you either live with it or you quick load. Like I play all Deus Ex and all these Dishonored, all these types of games, loading and saving, loading and saving. I'm playing with a controller, and one of the smart things this game does, recognizing that like quick save, quick load is a thing, is that one, save and load are different than quick save and quick load, which is like the game
Yes.
acknowledging that like the players play these types of games differently. And crucially, quick save is the top of mind menu option when you pause the game. So in a lot of games, to get to a save, on a keyboard, it's one thing. I can hit F6, F7 is usually what they map that to, I think. But in a controller, usually like hitting a start, hitting pause, then you're navigating to save, then you're saving. In Prey, you hit pause, save is right there. So you just have to hit pause, hit A, and then it puts you right back into the game. Like it is incredibly smart and efficient about how it recognizing that, especially early on, like you're going to die a lot. You're going to want to massage your way through different rooms. And so I think like liberal use of quick save and quick load, and also the game like recognizing that you're going to be doing that, is one of like several like sort of smart UI choices this game makes that recognizes sort of like the the way players have historically engaged with these games and tries to create an interface that actually reflects it.
Totally. I mean, I think that's the reason you do a hard save in a game like this is like, all right, I'm about to go into a whole new area, or like I just finished an area, I'm happy with my performance, and it save. Whereas you do that quick save where you're like, all right, there's going to be some bullshit in this next game, I know it. Let me do a quick save and just like peek my help, 7 enemies, cool, dead. Or like, I've killed them all, but I used 3 of my med packs and a ton of ammo.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm not happy with how that went. I could have done that better. Hit that quick load button. What's the other way? Could have I trapped them? Could I have used a different weapon that they're weak against? Something like that. And I will say that, like, to your point, Danielle. So again, I'm like 6 hours in, and I didn't get a shotgun, which is so you start off with like a weapon that sort of. I'm not going to tell you what it does specifically, but it sort of helps you keep control of enemies. It doesn't do damage to them. It just kind of prevents them from hurting you.
Yes.
And then you could like run up and hit them, or shoot them with another gun or something. And then you also get a pistol and you have a wrench because it's one of these. And that stuff means that for the early game, like you're constantly in danger. And getting a shotgun definitely felt like, oh, like I can deal with real enemies now. And you're able to get ammo pretty much all the time. Like I've not had a problem with ammo now that I have the shotgun. Now that I have a pistol. I have like 115 bullets in the pistol or something. And the thing I'll say is that moment. This is one of those things where I'm very curious about how I'm going to feel about all of this when the game comes to a close. The notion of the pacing of it, because I was right there with you for the opening 5 hours of the game where I'm like, I fucking want a shotgun so bad, or I want special abilities, or I want
the ability to actually do stealth or something
totally.
else. I just keep getting
conflict
creamed.
altogether.
Like it's
right, totally. And I don't think that the combat without that stuff is very fun. Like there's a lot of enemies that skitter around on the floor, and you have to like hit them, and they're hard to line up the attacks, or like it's hard to aim the gun and get shots off on them. And so like to some degree I was like, oh, I'm really frustrated by this. And then you get that great moment of like, oh, I'm less frustrated now. I've leveled up enough. I've gotten the right equipment. And the other thing is, it's rare when I'm playing a game like this that I actually don't just immediately put all of my points into hacking, and then repair, and then like talk. Whatever the thing is that's going to open up more possibilities in the narrative space for me is what I normally put all my points in. This time I put points into repair early because one of the things that you find is things that are in the environment that can hurt you if you don't repair them.
Yeah.
And there were a number of times I was just like standing near a computer trying to like hack it or whatever, and there was a broken electrical conduit, and just like zap, 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 you're dead. And like, well, fuck. Like, I guess I'll put points into repair so I don't get zapped to death. God damn. And it's the first time I've ever played one of these games where I've even considered putting points into the more HP early on in the game instead of putting it into the utility powers, because it feels like they wanted combat to feel difficult and stressful and like really dangerous. So
I appreciate that.
And I like all that. Like I'm I really enjoy how sort of blunt the game is up front with pushing back on the player, and like specifically because of the way like the creatures work, right? Like so like the main enemy you first find is something called a mimic, and it can mimic any object in the environment, and they're like these little skittish spider things. It's what you've seen in the trailer, like it's like of what they've shown to the game. Like this is like the main enemy type that you're intimately familiar with up front. And I like that stress is like what I love that about the game. Like I love that you see like a spider, one of these mimics like skitter around. You get one hit off, it runs away. Like the enemies like don't stick around necessarily. Like they're smart. At least the mimic class, like they will come in, get a hit on you, or you'll get a hit on it, and then it goes and becomes like a coffee cup. And you have to it can become any object like in the environment. It can map to any object around.
So there's not like mimic class objects where it's like okay, look for like a person sized thing. It can literally be like any model.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Often it will be a model of something else nearby, so it'll be like, oh, there are 2 coffee cups on that table. When I came in, I was pretty sure there was only 1 coffee cup.
Yep.
And then you do the thing of like, I guess I'll just shoot my weird gun at this thing and hope that it's a mimic and I'm not wasting ammo. But also I hope my gun doesn't make noise and attract some other bigger enemy to come fuck me up. And that stuff is really cool so far.
It also makes you afraid of toilet paper.
Yep.
I have been terrified of toilet paper in this game. I go into the bathroom and I'm like, All right. Is that toilet paper?
I see you, toilet paper.
Like nudging at it. Like, are you really toilet paper?
Well, and sometimes they'll like bounce around a little bit, but also sometimes things just fall because you're in a space that can get kind of turbulent sometimes. Yeah. So it's like, oh, something fell off that shelf, and like, no, it's just a toilet paper. Everything's fine.
Is ammo a concern? Because like, if this is a zombie game, right? You hit that point where you shoot every single like corpse object in the game just to make sure it's not going to wake up and go like, blah. So are you just like able to unload on models in this game?
I've never run out. Again, later on in the game, you get into a situation where you can replicate things. You get kind of blueprints to make things, and then you also break stuff in the environment down into recycled kind of pure component parts.
That stuff is so okay. So these games are obsessed with the player searching and so there are two things that this game does that I think are really smart and interesting. One is that the mimic enemy is like specifically engineered to interact with this idea of these types of games where the player is going to look at everything. The player is going to every drawer. The player is going to go under every desk. Like, they are constantly searching at things. And so this enemy design, which you are not alert, like, if you know where it is, like, there's no like indicator going off, like, you have to discover, or the enemy has to uncover itself. And so the sheer act of exploring is given tension because there is an enemy type that can be hiding in any place in the environment that interacts with the very thing that you're doing all the time, which is scavenging through everything. So like, one, I think that is incredibly smart because it adds tension to like a very mundane but like a part of the game that you're going to be doing a lot. And equally, like, often you're collecting junk and you just don't know what to do with it. Like, these games will populate junk that is just junk to be, like, you open a trash and it's like, there's a banana in there. And it's like, there's nothing
trash
you
can
can't.
Eclair.
Yeah, you can't, there's nothing you can do with that. And this game says, well, okay, we're going to do something with this junk. And so it's the future. And so they can come up with, they can just wave a magic wand. And so in this game, you collect, there are things you can use. There are like classes of items you can eat and things like that. But then there is just straight up junk. And junk can be broken down in what's called a recycler. And so you collect this junk. Like, so there's like reasons for you to explore, like, for narrative purposes. And there's reasons for you to collect junk that you can then take to a recycler, which breaks down to components. And then you can map those to blueprints that allow you to get med kits and ammo and other things. Like, it's just so elegant and clearly, like, takes into account like the last 20, like, starting with Deus Ex and where we are now. Like, it just so smartly thinks about all the cruff that is usually in a lot of these games and finds like really smart and elegant sort of solutions and ideas to play with that. Like, it is clearly a game that was like made by a bunch of people that love these types of games and have thought about like the little quirks that have come up in the genre over the years and like tries to come up with creative solutions and ideas to play with.
Totally. So because of that system, I'm in a point now where I'm not having any trouble with ammo. Because while there's combat, it's also not that often, and it is often the case that I'm able to go into combat and be very efficient about how I'm going to take on an enemy. Making sure I, mostly do my damage with the wrench, which I have. The wrench isn't going to break down, or where I'm able to replicate enough ammo when I know I'm going to go into a hard system or a hard fight or something like that. So far, I've never been at the point where I'm like counting bullets, which is fine because it wants to be that sort of game. It wants to be more like a BioShock than like a Dishonored or something where like I'm not going in guns. In Dishonored, I'm rarely going in guns blazing. Whereas here, it's like, no, this is a game like it's time to fight. It's time to fight, which mostly works, I think. I will say that I'm excited for you guys to get a little bit further in because your relationship with the enemies in the game definitely changes in a pretty dramatic and interesting way. And you unlock more abilities and more like core abilities into like what the main kind of central gameplay loop is in terms of what you do in each encounter and as you move into each room, what's going on. And that's really cool. Like, I like the changes that come up. We'll talk about more of those next week, probably. Like, I don't want to get into those quite yet. What I do want to say, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I just real quick, and I apologize if you guys already said this. What systems is everyone playing this on?
I'm on PS4.
PS4.
I'm on PC.
They sent PS4 code.
And I will say, there was a point of contention in the lead up to Prey being released in that they put out a demo on Xbox One and PS4, and the way Bethesda and Arkane tried to spin it was like, oh, well, Steam has a refund function, so that's like our version of a demo. Like, reading between the lines, I'm pretty sure what they were actually doing is that Dishonored 2 had a pretty mediocre PC version, and that was fixed that was mostly fixed a couple of weeks after. And my guess is what they were doing was like, we're not going to spend the time to build a demo. We're going to spend that time optimizing the PC version. And so crucially, the PC version runs like really, really well. I get a solid 60 frames a second, which was not my experience on Dishonored 2 at all. That like hitched and got all over the place. 2, they also use a different engine. Like Prey uses the Cry engine, so like the Crytek engine.
Is it?
Whereas Dishonored uses a modified id Tech engine called the Void engine that just has. Please ditch that for Dishonored 3. Like, I'm tired of it. It's a bad engine. So yeah, like the PC version, like on my GTX 970, I have like a fairly middle of the road machine, and it looks gorgeous, runs really well, and doesn't have any sort of like the performance issues I encountered in Dishonored 2.
I am just really curious because Austin, you said you were having trouble sort of landing the shots on the skittering little creatures.
Yeah, because I'm playing with a controller.
Yeah, I mean that's
fast,
like I'm wondering if it's a little hard. Like Patrick, were you struggling at all with the early combat, or does it feel like it's really a different game if you're playing it with that mouse and keyboard?
Yeah, I've used both so far, and I think it's more to do with just the enemy type is meant to be, like, it's a skittish enemy type. Like, you're meant to miss your shots, like, this glue gun that you have that sort of freezes them, and then also, you can use to, like, essentially build rocks in the environment, so you can, like, scale and explore. It's sort of like, Dishonored tried to come up with a interesting, creative way of, like, when you play these types of games, like, I want to go see what's up on that shelf. And, like, normally it's like, all right, well, I got to, like, I guess jump over there. And so, like, in Dishonored, like, they have
boxes,
blink, you blink so you can just, like, I just want to get there. Like, that's our creative solution. For this, like, you have this gun that freezes enemies, but also can be used to, like, hey, I want to get up and see, like, is there something, maybe there's a window I can crawl through. And it's like, well, maybe maybe you can go find a key card, or you could just sit here and, like, create these blocks that you can climb on and crawl through. And also it's like all these little creative, like one of the ways I deal with some of the early, like, larger enemy types, because I don't have a gun yet, is like you can grab these explosive canisters and throw it at them. Well, by doing that, you may also, like, bust open some pipes. And those pipes can then be sort of like, you can literally just shoot them with this glue gun, and then it, freezes up the area, and then you can get through. It's just, I'm really impressed so far in the first 2 hours of this game. I'd say it is I don't know what I was hoping for, because I specifically avoided a lot of coverage of this game, because it was like, I saw the trailer and I was like, yep, this is my game. Like, I don't need to see anything else. If I have to do it for work, then fine, I will do it. But I've successfully avoided seeing anything, because I knew this is the game, like, I wanted to come in as cold as possible, and so far I'm really enjoying it.
I think that's wise, honestly, and I think some of my frustration with the game stems from actually having played like an early demo that actually had certain things unlocked, and so going in now I'm like, oh, I want to start from there and go, and instead it's like, oh, some certain things have been taken out.
Gotta replay through this stuff, and also you're not as enabled as you were before, right?
Exactly.
Totally.
But I just briefly, I know I'm going to like this game unless it like tanks somewhere, because again, the kind of story, the kind of looking at people's emails and hacking the computers and kind of taking in those kind of incidental story details, that's my jam. I love that sort of thing, and this is definitely full of that sort of thing. I'm enjoying that aspect, and I know that will carry me through.
I'm very curious for me. So the thing I really like about this, again, without getting into specifics, especially about the start of the game, is like, just think about like the mimic enemies, right? The way that they're able to appear like coffee cups. That sense of like, you can't trust what you see is built into the game very early through the characters you meet. It is a game that knows it comes after BioShock, right? Cameron Kunzelman, who's written for us before, and Brendan Keogh are two critics who've written a lot about the post-BioShock game, like what it means to write a game post-BioShock. Not a shock-like. Game, not games like BioShock.
Oh, no,
games that exist in reference
in the world
to
after that.
BioShock.
Gotcha.
Brendan Keogh writes about this in Killing is Harmless, his book about Spec Ops The Line. In a world in which we talk about games that are about player agency, and if you read BioShock as a criticism of players who commit to doing kind of shitty things even after they know that they're like, even they just kind of follow the linear path of the game because the game says they should go do a terrible thing, they're going to go do a terrible thing. This game immediately very clearly knows that it's going to be played by players who are skeptical.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to say, oh no, you can trust us, trust me, you can trust us. It instead goes, yeah, motherfucker, you can't trust shit. And like, I am really interested in how that continues to play out in terms of the characters that you meet, in terms of, you think about BioShock 1 and like, oh, okay, you meet Atlas, you meet a few other key characters, Tenenbaum, Fontaine, and you're like, okay, well, I think I kind of know which of these characters I can trust. 6 hours in, I'm still not sure who I can trust in Prey, which is a good feeling.
Excellent.
In fact, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust me, like, at all. So that is... I'm happy that they're going that route as a way of addressing that instead of trying to do the other thing of really trying to play it up that one character is someone you could really trust.
You know what I don't trust is a future where yes, you get these amazing mods that can let you do amazing things, but why does it have to put a needle in your eye?
In your fucking eye.
Why can't we live in a future where like, hey, we got these space stations, like maybe don't put a fucking needle in my eye.
Because you would need a drill otherwise.
Hey.
That's a soft thing that you can go through. Otherwise, you got to drill stuff.
Drill in
man.
my brain. Go for it.
All
you know
right.
what? Give me the thing. Put it in the back of my fucking brain.
just saying.
Don't go through my eye.
You want to know.
I don't want to know anymore. Okay?
Also, like to give this game how it is aware of like the faults in these types of genres. Like this game does have, you don't find voice clips, but you. Thank you, Austin.
The little guilty look that Austin gave the monitor.
Sorry.
It's like, oh, nobody notices this. Am I? Are you guys getting this?
I muted myself. Listen.
Camera.
You'll like hack into a computer or open someone's emails and like you can download these voice clips that you can listen to that give you some insight into what was happening on this space station before you sort of enter the picture. But one. You can, when you go into, you're spending a lot of time in your inventory, and in your inventory, the voiceovers continue in there. So like like you can be walking around managing your inventory. Like you can be, the game is conscious of the fact that like I hate, I hate games that like you have to sit here and listen to this clip in front of this thing that you hit play on, and if you walk away, the sound's going to go away. If you go into a menu, it's going to go away. It's like, I don't mind that as a narrative device. I can get over the hokiness of it, but like don't stop me from being able to enjoy and play your game. Like Horizon Zero Dawn was terrible at this. Like there would be moments in Horizon Zero Dawn where you were spending 30 minutes in a room getting info dumps about the story, and like I enjoy the story, but like the way it's presented is like very frustrating for the player and what they want to do and engage with the world, and
especially that game where there was other stuff I could have been going to do in the open world that was mindless. Just let me do the Metal Gear thing, Metal Gear Solid 5 thing of just like, okay, give me the list, I can hit play on them and then go do my own shit while it's playing in the background. I need, like, please. Anyway. The other thing that they do on that stuff is often it's dialogue. It's not an audio log of a person talking to themselves.
Yeah.
It's almost always just like a conversation that you're overhearing, a phone call, which is more natural, and also just like helps with characterization. Like what a person thinks to themselves and would say out loud is not as interesting to me as a group of 3 people debating some future technology and the chance that it has to go wrong versus what possible positive applications there are, right?
Yeah.
I will say 2 other things, or a couple other things before we move on, which is like, one, I have hit some bugs. I think they're bugs. Okay, I've hit things that I know are bugs, which are things like things about like the basic combat or like getting clipped into a wall or getting stuck or whatever. I've hit things that I think are bugs but don't know. There was a side mission that I'm doing.
Can't trust it.
Right. You can't trust anything.
Can't trust that code.
Clearly. There's a side mission that was like, you got to get in this room. It was like, you have to go do this whole thing, but one part of the side mission, one tiny part was, you got to get in this room. And I was like, I don't know how the fuck to get in this room. Or like, actually, it's like, okay, I see one way I could get in the room. I need to go back to a 3D printer and print myself out this thing that would get me into the room, basically, through this side entrance.
Okay.
And I knew I could do that. But it then popped up and was like, oh, if you're stuck on an objective, we'll give you a hint. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go into the menu. I went into the menu and clicked on the objective thing, and it was like, oh, there's an engineering robot. If you notice, the engineering robot is going around and it's cleaning every room. It opens even locked doors.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, shit, cool. Like, this engineering robot's going to open this door for me. Nah. It just did its... I watched it do its loop for 20 minutes straight, and it did not open that door for me. It would go up to the room, and it'd be like, no, and turn and go. I was like, maybe I'm standing in the wrong place. Maybe I'm too close to the door. I'll go somewhere else. I'll watch it from a different level.
Do you have to interact with the robot?
I tried talking to the robot, Patrick.
Because that's how the
Trust
medical
me.
robot works. So I was trying to.
I promise I tried to interact with the robot. This is the robot that lets you repair your suit because you have HP and then you have suit damage also. And so this was that one, and it was like, no, your suit's good, dude. And I was like, please open the morgue door. I got to get in there. There's a body in there that has some sort of key card on it. But to the credit of the game, I then spent the next 15 minutes being like, all right, is there a way I can get in here that is different? And there was. I figured it out, and I ended up hitting a button on the inside with an object.
Oh, neat.
And if I had gone down a different tree of a different thing, I could have hacked my way in. Or there are special abilities that they've shown off in the demos and stuff like that in the trailers, in which you can move through spaces in interesting ways. Is all I'll say. And that stuff all seems cool. So that stuff is even when it's bugged out, I'm always happy when there is a situation where I can find an alternate solution. There was another thing though that we'll talk about it in the future, but there was an email thing that was like very clearly setting up a puzzle and a solution that I found. And I was like, okay, cool, like I got it. I had to take this coffee cup somewhere in the world and put it somewhere. I don't think that's true. I think that was just a complete red herring. I spent 30 minutes carrying around a coffee cup through the environment looking to put it somewhere.
So there's a thread running through Austin's complaints with the game, which is that when Austin thinks he's figured something out, and there's a possibility he hasn't, and he might have it wrong, that's bullshit. Austin definitely solved that puzzle.
No. The thing where it fucking popped up a hint, Rob, and it said, the way you do this is follow the goddamn engineering drone, and then it doesn't do the thing. That's not on me.
That's the game commenting on trust.
I have another
you can't
reason to
trust
believe.
the game.
I do have another reason to believe it was bugged out, which is there was a thing on the wall that said, "Oh, there are 2 engineering drones out in the wild right now." Like, no, there's one. I think one of them just despawned or never spawned in.
It's stuck in a wall somewhere.
Stuck in a wall somewhere or something. Like,
Convenient excuse.
Well, and I tried to destroy the drone that was there and go back and reprint it or whatever. And as soon as I destroyed it, it was like, no, you can't. The whole screen went blank on the engineering drone machine. So what I'm saying is, some of the clarity on that stuff could be better, and I'm hoping that these are like rare exceptions, because the worst thing for me in games like this, like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, that's the most recent one, had a number of quests like this where, oh no, this is a dead end. Something just didn't generate right for me. An NPC isn't where they're supposed to be. A key card, I look it up on the internet, and the key card just didn't spawn in for me where it's supposed to spawn in. And when that happens, it's like, oh, the whole reason I love these games is because I'm able to, because the solutions that you can find are really interesting and cool. And every once in a while you hit a quest that has one solution, and when that one thing fails, you really feel it in a game like this. So
until I talked to you about it, I for real thought that's what happened with the shotgun.
Right.
Because it was there in the demo, or the demo I played anyway, that version. I was like, I kept going back to the guy where it was in the demo, and I was like, no, maybe it's in the wall, it's under the couch, like something happened with it, until I talked to you, and you're like, no, actually.
No, I'm 4 hours in, no shotgun. Yeah, totally. And then the other bigger thing for me is I'm very curious about the story still. Like, I went to sleep last night at hour 4, kind of down on the story. I like sci-fi stories. I like mega corporations. I like stories about mega corporations. Let me be clear.
Yes.
I like this sort of sci-fi a lot. And I like some of the stuff that they're playing with in the margins a lot about the history of this place.
Well, so that's the thing is, like, often what these games can fall into a trap of is that the story being told is far less interesting than the stories being told in, like, the lore stuff that you find, right? So, like, I'm curious if the game is going to, like, there's an email I found. So, in this future, like, there's this, this company has created these things called neuromods that, essentially, like, hey, you want to become a mathematician, like, bzz, like, now you're a genius at math.
Right.
And, like, there's one email that you find that's like, there are certain people in which the mods don't work for them. And, like, the suggestion in the email is like, does that mean that, like, we are inadvertently creating, like, a different class or caste system in which, like, some people can get neuromods and become superhumans and other people are just normal humans? Like, that's, like, a really interesting idea. Like, I wonder if the game is going to play with that, or, like, go any deeper with that, or will that just be how it often is with these games, like, super interesting idea that is like a writer
Never
put it
shows
in,
up.
Yeah, writer
Yeah.
put it in, a piece of something on a desk because they got to fill thousands of these, but it's not actually explored in the main story. Like, it's far too early to judge that, but that is a trap that a lot of these games I often, like Dishonored does it. Like, Dishonored's actual story is not that interesting to me, but like a lot of these side stories or suggestions about like what the politics of the world are like, gosh, I wish there was a little more of that.
Totally. And I've seen some of that stuff pop back up, and I woke up this morning and then played through another level and was like, okay, this stuff is interesting again. But I really want more environmental diversity right now. Like, that was one of the big things that made BioShock 1 work. Was like, oh, hey, you're in Rapture, you're in this underwater city, but each new level set feels wildly different.
Yeah.
And right now, this does not feel that way to me, and that could totally change. It definitely has an aesthetic. It definitely feels like the return of Art Deco in like the 1960s and 70s, like 1970 business, like corporate aesthetic is kind of what it feels like. Wood panel, gold on, like, gold trim around the doorway, stuff like that, which is cool. It's not super striking to me quite yet, and I really want to get to a level where I'm like, oh shit, I take it all back, and kind of have
Something like an Atlas statue, kind of like
something like that, something like
not an Atlas statue.
No.
That would be not cool, but
like something like Fort Frolic, something like, what's the garden area? Arcadia. So we'll see. Also, there's lots of names I recognize in this game. I definitely came across an NPC named Crispin Boyer.
oh, perfect.
Sean Elliott worked on this game. I'm just saying. There might be some EGM alums in this game
funny.
in the background.
He's dead body number 7.
It's a Gallegos I ran into. I'm just saying. It's all sorts of lineages. Any other thoughts on this before we move on? Rob, do you have any other questions about Prey? Are you ready to dive in?
Oh, God. Like, you basically had me... Look, this is weird. This is kind of... It's a weird fetish thing. But the moment Patrick started talking...
It's a safe
about,
space.
like...
It is a safe space.
You take junk and you turn it into, like, nanite type stuff that turns into, like, currency. I was like, oh, yeah, that's that System Shock 2 goodness. So I'm like, I've been waiting for this ship to come in, I think, for a good, like, 15 years. And I am so on board with everything I've heard that come Monday, I hope to have beaten the game. Put you guys to shame.
Wow, you're gonna do
boy.
a deep dive.
No, I'm not gonna do that. That's not my life anymore. But it's something to aspire to.
Yeah.
So, anything else going on with you guys this week?
Played Edith Finch. I liked that a lot.
What'd you think of that?
I actually loved it. I had a piece just go up a few minutes ago, actually, about how I feel like it was a good short film festival for better and for worse. That some story sequences work better than others, but overall, I really enjoyed it because I think it hit more than it missed.
Which sequences stood out for you?
Well,
Also, have either of you played this yet?
Well, yeah, Patrick did. I know.
Yeah, right.
You
Patrick
guys
and I talked about
that
it.
a little
Right,
bit.
totally.
I won't say too much. Barbara, I think, of course, is kind of one of the
Interesting.
easy ones. I think Lewis, the factory worker,
Yeah, Lewis
is a pretty
is
good.
really good.
Walter, the bunker guy. But I also really loved the baby in the bathtub.
Yeah,
That doesn't sound
Real
promising.
good.
it's an
Well,
interesting story.
nothing is promising in this game. Let me put it that way. Just trying to keep it vague. But yeah, I really did. I used to go to a lot of short film festivals. It
Sure.
was part of my job when I wrote about movies a lot. I went to a lot of like queer film festivals and things like that. So I have an iron stomach for bad short stories as well. So maybe that skews things a little. But I actually really enjoyed the game. I thought it cohered nicely. I could see your criticisms with it for sure. I could see how you could definitely take this as sort of a twee confection in certain ways.
Yeah, that's not
but-
my beef with it even. I don't have beef with it. I enjoyed Edith Finch, and the
Sure.
further away I get from it, the more the memorable, positive aspects remain in my brain.
Yeah.
But I do think that you talking about it as an anthology or as like a film festival style thing is part of what my not negative takeaway was, but it gestures towards why I didn't feel a lot of resolution. And I think this is in me more than in the game. I think there should be a place for games and stories that don't resolve themselves clearly. Like, I think that I defend that. I'd like to tell stories like that a lot. But there was something in that game that suggested to me a conclusion was coming that would not answer questions about the family so much as give me an emotional anchor from which I should leave that game. And And specifically, there are places in the world of that game that are just out of reach throughout the entire game. And I think it was a very intentional choice not to let you ever reach them.
Yeah.
But also that felt bad, and not good bad. I like feeling good bad.
I got
Everything
you.
Austin is saying, though, sounds so perfect for a game about death, though. Like, literally every reaction Austin is having is like,
Yeah.
man, this game, like, it's sort of unfinished, and there's these things you hope to do, but you can't.
But that's not.
and-
But the depiction of death in this game is not that. The
Okay.
depiction of death in this game is constantly about hard endings that produce meaning. Constantly, it's always this character died, and then that had this effect on this other character.
Yeah.
The strongest bits about that game for me are seeing a person whose life has been touched by death.
It's too clean.
It's very clean,
Yeah.
right? And then so suddenly it pivots in its final moments to being very messy, and I like that messiness.
Yeah.
Like in a vacuum or in other contexts, it left me feeling unfulfilled because it had built me this bridge. And again, maybe a year from now, I'll think back on this and I'll be the person defending this sense of messiness. But right now, I'm just like, I wanted to open that door, so to speak.
Yeah,
like it's not a
understandable.
door, but yeah.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. And I went into it after you both had a discussion about
Right.
it, kind of knowing, there's going to be some areas. In a way, it feels shallow in certain ways. Like that cleanliness does feel shallow in certain
Well, I
ways.
actually
Right.
like I could have spent more. I wish the game had spent more time with the character. That's all. Actually, what I felt.
Totally.
Like, there is a
Sure.
there's a style of storytelling in which like not giving you more time is the intention. So you're like left wanting in a way that is helps the story. But I actually felt like this game's really tight. It's like 2 hours.
Very,
a little
yeah.
more than that maybe if you spend
Yeah.
poking around. But I felt that there was more to mine from these characters that I think could have helped. Like I think the same story could have been told, but if more time was spent with the characters, I think there was a pacing issue with how it gets to its final conclusion that I think like the same story told with just like a little like stretching it out, not even stretching, but just giving a little more depth and time with it, I think would have gone a long way to resolving the issues that Austin had with it, because I think it's just a little too clean and tight. Like there was a little too much editing done to be like boop 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 boop, and then we're out. And I came out of it going like rather than it's when rather than being a movie, I wanted a 10 episode or a 6 episode HBO miniseries. And, like,
That's exactly right.
that's what I wanted more. Like I didn't get enough time in a way that acted as a negative, as opposed to often it's like I didn't get enough time, but I just wanted more. Like that works in a good way. In this case, I wanted not necessarily 6 hours, but I wanted more than 2 hours, or maybe less characters that I spent more time with. Like
Totally.
whatever
There
the
are
way
characters-
it divvied it up. It was. There was more to it, and it would have gotten more out of it. But it ends up feeling shallow in a way that it could have escaped if it had given you more time with the world.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because there are characters that it does spend a lot of time with,
Yes.
and those sequences are really well developed.
Fantastic,
And are built around mechanics that are really clever or really great at illustrating something. And then
especially, I
Lewis
think.
especially,
Yeah.
I think. I think Barbara to a degree.
Yes.
Barbara didn't hit me as much as it hit you guys, but I still respect it
I
a lot.
really
I like, oh
like
wow,
that.
okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
And I think that those ones really stand out. And then again, I mentioned this before, but the sequence of through Sam's life from
Yes.
his brother's
Calvin, I
name,
think, is the
Calvin,
brother? Yeah.
Calvin to Sam to Gregory is the order that you get it narratively, and like that whole sequence as a single block works. But there are other characters like, oh, I picked up a thing. All right, I've gotten their thing.
30
I put it
seconds
down,
and done.
and like,
Yeah.
ooh, like I get it. There's something cool about the thing I just did, but I wanted a little bit more. Or I wanted to stay in this time era a little bit longer,
Yeah.
or whatever. So I don't know. Rob, you should play both of these games. You should
Yeah,
play
play these
Prey. You
games,
should play
Rob.
Edith Finch. I really want to know what you think.
I think what spooks me a little bit about Edith Finch is it sounds so much like Everyone's Gone to the Rapture in some ways.
Oh, it's different.
Yeah, it's
I
different.
I think it's better.
I
to
haven't
be
played-
It's a
honest.
lot better, yeah.
I haven't played
yeah.
Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, but like just from hearing you guys talk about it over the last couple of years, like it seems like a wildly different thing. Is that
Okay.
right?
Wild, yes, very
Just
much
because
so.
when I hear about
Yeah.
the structure, though, the series of vignettes that leave you feeling vaguely unsatisfied, I'm like, oh man, like that became a really frustrating day for me. I don't know if I want to repeat that.
No, this
It's a
is
lot more colorful and full of detail in a way that I found very satisfying, even though certain segments didn't quite live up to other segments.
well, and also
personally.
that game is a lot of here's something playing out in front of you, like watch
Yeah.
it. And Edith Finch like says, well, what if we incorporate the player into these sequences that normally would be you just watching a scene play out, and makes you part of it in a way that I think is really effective. So I don't think you'll have, if that was your problem with Rapture, I don't think you'll have that problem with Finch.
Also moves a lot faster.
Oh my god, that game was so fucking slow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, when you've got a soundtrack that good and a lot of English pastoralism to show, you
gotta
can't
walk
rush
real slow.
that.
You know?
You gotta just walk every mind-numbing yard of that village while people are like, oh, sadness. Like that's basically that game. Also, great soundtrack though. Like, not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah.
True.
That wasn't
True.
sarcasm? Okay.
Yes.
No, yeah, it's a
soundtrack.
wonderful soundtrack.
no, it's a tremendous soundtrack, but like it's the whole thing. When it all comes together, in some aspects, it's less than the sum of its parts.
We should take a quick trip to the question
So
bucket.
little
Rob,
dip.
I need a number because you didn't play any of the games we were going to talk about. This.
62.
That means I need you to. Okay.
Wow, that was where did that number come from?
I've never heard anyone be as confident about picking a number
Episode
as Rob.
number, right?
Oh, it's the episode number.
He knew.
That adds up to
He
me.
knew it was up.
This one comes in from Kevin. That news that just dropped about Tabata planning to make story changes in a Final Fantasy 15 update. I totally get his motivations. If I worked hard to make this big thing, and then when I released it to the wild, people said, yeah, it's good, but this part over here is pretty weak, it would be tough for me to resist the urge to improve it. That said, maybe he should resist. Is it better that everyone have the same experience than to give some people a better one? This is the question of life in a way.
Question that Prey
Kevin.
is asking about Neuromods.
This is the question that America is asking itself every day.
Do we redistribute
Yes.
the experience?
That's all I want to know. Do people who finish the game already suffer by there being a better version? What if there are more changes made down the road? I think this stuff is part of the bigger discussion about when stories are actually done. It's tough to change other forms of media after they're out there, even though I'm sure many creators would like to. It happens. Let me tell you, the version of the Blue Album, Weezer's Blue Album that existed when that first came out is not the version you buy today. Anyway, we do see director's cuts of movies, which is all along the same line of this. George Lucas changed Star Wars, and that was shitty, but maybe because his changes sucked? Or maybe only because his changes sucked? I really don't know. I guess my question is, do you think this is okay? And if so, when does it stop being okay? Keep it up, Kevin.
What is he saying about the Blue Album? I'm still,
Yeah, I was unaware of this.
That was me. This is me.
What do you say?
That was me
Editorializing.
improvising. Rivers went back in and re-recorded stuff in the mid 2000s on the printed versions and then reprinted that album.
So, hold on.
And re-released it.
So the version
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
listening to in school is not the
first
version
cut
I
of that
downloaded
album
from
is-
Amazon like 3 months ago.
Correct. The version of that album that first came out then changed. In the mid 2000s, he re-recorded stuff with different takes.
See, I thought you were talking about Pinkerton, which was an album I loved when it came out,
Oh, no.
and then now is like extremely creepy to listen to.
No, that's still, you're right about all of that.
Yeah.
No, I mean literally. This is the thing that this guy's talking about. Kevin is talking about is when a creator goes in and changes something in a piece of media. How do we feel about that?
I think they're allowed if they're the creator.
I mean, no one is saying they're not allowed. I guess
Oh, I see. I just mean if we're making any kind of moral judgment here.
I don't think we're making a
think it's
moral
okay to do.
judgment. I think we're pondering. We're pondering.
We're pondering. Okay.
In this specific case, the impression I got, and I haven't played this game, so like you can speak to it more than I can. The impression I got was the section that was changed was really deeply flawed, like in a lot of ways a shitty experience. Now I heard some defenses of it as being thematically satisfying. Its shittiness somehow worked with the themes, but like the impression I got was that when you boiled it down, it felt like a part of the game that had not really been adequately finished. In which case, I kind of think this isn't George Lucas going back 20 years later and like screwing with the masters of A New Hope. This is something else.
This is someone fixing a problem.
broken thing.
Right. That's the thing that's always tough. Like I guess this is like a purely academic debate in that of course people are going to always do this. Like you build a bridge and then you realize, oh shit, we need more supports. You're going to add more things. And like often games are this weird middle ground between monuments and bridges, right? Like they have to serve a function, and if they're broken at the functional level, of course the company and the developers are going to try to update that if they can. I think the middle of the weird gray zone here is when it is about emotional content or thematic content or narrative content, stuff that is like intentionally a certain way. I think the Mass Effect 3 ending here is like the obvious one, right? Where it's like, I don't know that they sent that to publish. Like, I don't know if they printed those gold discs or they printed that gold disc and thought like, we're going to change the ending. Like, I think that they thought that ending was good.
Yeah.
Not the case where like sometimes happens in game dev where it's like, this isn't good, but we don't have time to fix it. Bye. And I don't know. I don't know where my heart is on this.
Dixivid, maybe that's their name.
What?
In chat. Dixivid. I don't know. Dixavd.
We should just keep saying that name.
Says.
Yep.
This is someone who now has the
saying
funding after the game sold well, so they're allowed even more development time to fill the tail. I think that speaks directly to that sort of thing.
Totally.
Like, oh yeah, we're fixing a problem.
But is there a point at which you want your creator to stop fiddling with something?
So I mean, for me, it's not. I don't have a problem with the creator going back and fiddling. Like I mean, especially in these days where like largely you can play a game pre-patch if you want to experience it, in the way it was. But I remember being frustrated when the Final Fantasy stuff was announced, and I remember tweeting about this because there's no world where I'm going to go back and play that game so I can experience the modified shitty Chapter 17 or whatever is the one that they're that they're changing and adding like cutscenes to. Like I got the shittier experience, and so in some ways I'm like, I want everyone to have this shitty experience because fuck you, I don't get to play the patched version and like have that version of the game like that. It was frustrating to me. Like I guess the question is like, if it is a scenario where a game is rushed out, and Final Fantasy 15 was rushed out, in which like because I bought the game and played it when it came out, I got a crappier experience because they rushed a game out, as opposed to like after the fact going, oh, like, you know what, I didn't think about it that way, or like we can tweak this value or like add this like line of dialogue, like I don't know, like that, like it bugs me on a level of like, well, I got the shittier version of the game because I played it early and you rushed it out, assholes. Like that's the part that bugs me less so than I'm gonna go and change it. Like the ending, I still think BioWare very poorly handled to the Mass Effect 3, and they should have stuck to their guns and just said the ending is what the ending is. Like it was a really weird thing that they did. I understand why they did it. I just disagree with what they should have just stuck with. Like if the ending, people thought the ending sucked, then the ending sucked.
Then the ending sucked. Yeah.
And this ties into also with Mass Effect 2. I think the stronger version of that game had the Shadowbroker DLC in it. Like that's a better version of that game for sure.
Well, and Mass Effect 3 actually ran into this where it wasn't the
Citadel.
It's the Leviathan. Was that the DLC?
No,
Citadel or
no,
I know
it's
Citadel
the
was
one
really
where
fun
you go
and nice.
underwater and they explain like a ton of fucking lore questions about like
that's
how
the
origins of the Mass Effect, like where the Reapers came from, like all of that stuff is. This came up. I remember when Mass Effect 3 came out, and I was at Giant Bomb. That a bunch of us were disappointed with sort of some of the way things landed and some of the answers. Whereas Brad played the game after all the DLC came out, and he felt much more satisfied about the answers because he got the answers. And so we like had this like really weird like Game of the Year debate. Was like, well, whose experience? Both experiences are valid. Both interpretations of it. Like, most of us played a game where we didn't get a bunch of like lore answers that we thought we deserved and wanted from the game. Brad played a version of the game where he got that, and we didn't know how to. That was a tough thing to reconcile at the time. I remember.
Yeah.
You could play that game all the way through without Javik. You could play that whole game without Javik.
That would be terrible.
I did.
Right? How did you do that?
I played that game before any of the stuff was patched.
Wrong.
I played it in March 2010 or whatever it was. Like, I never went back. I don't even know who Javik is, and I like Mass Effect a lot.
Javik's a very important person, Rob.
He's a Promethean.
He's Prothean, but close enough. Same difference. Really.
Goddamn. Can I read one comment that's pertinent to this?
Yeah, please.
This feels very good. I like it a lot. It's from Jonix the Man. If you remaster a game and piece by piece replace every part of it, is it still that game? That is the question.
Yeah.
There's an answer.
So I just want to say, No. But no, the thing is, when he said that, I was like, this is corny. This is going to be a Ship of Theseus joke. But
it's better. Listen.
But then they delivered.
It's the known shippable of Theseus.
Which is very good.
I blew it. I am so sorry. Dixa something.
Jonix the man.
Jonix the man. Or John 9 the man, because it could be Roman
Oh, that's
numeral.
good. Could be John 9 the man.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's going to do it for us. The known shippable, of course, is a bug that developers know about, and they go like, we gotta finish this game. We know about it. Still going to ship this
That's
game.
actually going to be a really useful term, though, for games that like do change over time, because it's the shippable Theseus issue. Love it.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Briefly, two things. One, if you haven't seen our Pilot Week stuff yet, go check that out. You can find that at waypoint.vice.com. You can find all the videos up there if you go and click on the videos button on the site, or if you go to youtube.com/waypointvice, or check us on social, twitter.com/waypoint, facebook.com/waypointvice. The second thing is, we are going to do another bonus podcast soon. We're still trying to figure out a name. I really had in my heart of hearts the name Video Game Book Club, because it sounds good to me in my ears.
It's also what it is.
It's also what it is.
Known shippable book
But
club.
then I found out that there is now a defunct Video Game Book Club podcast, and there's also the Game Informer Game Club, I think, which has a book in their logo, and I feel that's gonna be a little too. I don't want to bite their style, even though I thought of that.
Rebel FM also did a video game book club that they might have called it that years.
They
and
maybe
years
called
ago.
it that. Maybe it's broad enough that we can do it. I don't know. We thought about like the Waypoint like deep dive society or something.
That's nice.
We're gonna pick a game. And we're gonna dive into it. We're all gonna play through it over the course of
a meeting of the Waypoint Deep Dive Society.
Get ready. Yeah, put on your fucking helmets.
We're going into
in.
the bucket.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. We're going to pick a game, and we're going to play through it over the course of the month, and we're going to have an active thread on the new forums, which, by the way, you can visit by going to forums.waypoint.vice.com or to discourse.zone.
Those forums are real good, by the way.
They're really good. Shout outs to the mods who are doing an incredible job on the
Amazing
forum.
work.
Shout outs to Danica who did an amazing job getting the forums up and running. And then we're going to play through that game. We're going to talk about it. And at the end of the month, we're going to get together and have like a big question and answer thing. We're going to do a round table around the game. And the first game, we don't have a name for the show yet, but the first game,
Big Bo! Big Bo!
Binary Domain.
Big Bo!
Binary Domain,
Big
which
Bo!
is available on PC, it's available on Xbox 360, it's available on PS3. I don't think it's back compatible yet, but it's out there, it's in the world.
Big Bo!
So
Patrick's excited.
Big
about it.
Bo's going to be there. I never beat Binary Domain. I started Binary Domain twice. It's a game with robots in it. It's a cyberpunk action shooter.
There's a person named Big Bo in it. That's
Big Bo is
that's all
good.
I know. Is Big Bo.
So we're gonna do a round table around this game later this month, and so get started. We're gonna start a thread today after this podcast is over, where you can chime in with name suggestions for what the show should be called and thoughts about Big Bo and thoughts about Binary
Your Big
Domain.
Bo
I got some
thoughts.
thoughts about Big Bo.
Keep your spoilers marked, because I know there's a lot that happens in that game. I'm super excited to play through it, and this is going to be a thing we do every month from now on. So one more little treat as part of Pilot Week. Rob, you look like you had something to say.
Oh, I was just looking at screenshots of Binary Domain, and I had lots of questions. And
Well, you're going
good.
to
a few
find the
concerns.
answers. Always good to have both of those things. That's going to do it for us this week. I'm Austin Walker. You can find me at Austin_Walker. Danielle, where can people
Danielle
find you?
R.I. on Twitter.
Patrick.
You can find me at Patrick Klepek.
Rob Zachney
at Rob Zachney.
on Twitter. Shout-outs to Brad. Shout-outs to Tim Barnes451 on Twitter. Brad, I keep forgetting what your Twitter is.
Brad with 2Ds_Bush.
Brad with 2Ds_Bush on Twitter. Thank you for producing, both of you. Shout-outs to Bowen for letting us use his song Miss You off of the EP Pale Machine. You can find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. If you missed our Pilot Week stuff, please go check it out. And then go to the forums and comment and let us know
about it.
what's good and what's bad. So, you already know what it is. We're going to catch you in the future. Danielle, what do we say to them at the end of the
I'm
show?
gonna say be good or be no. Sorry.
Big Bo!
We lost it. I don't think...
Be good or be good at it.
Peace.